All right, we've had a lot of questions about the weekend winter storm, so we thought we would team up tonight as we always do in severe weather. Paul Wetzel alongside with meteorologist Ryan Halicki, and what we're going to do is take a little deeper look at this storm that's moving our way into the weekend, and not just tonight. Each night this week as we get closer to this storm, we're going to take a good look at this storm and how it's materializing and developing, moving on in, because it's a pretty significant winter storm moving our way, Ryan.
It's going to have a lot of impacts for us, and I know that it's the number one question I've been asked today, as I know Absolutely. It is for you too, is are we going to see it? How bad is it going to be? What is it going to bring? So I want to start with talking about the storm impacts. Now, this is going to start developing as we go into Saturday. As we head into the afternoon and especially the evening when it starts ramping up there, we'll look for this heavy, wet snow developing. And what we're watching very closely is the potential for a little bit of a mix of some freezing rain and some of those pockets of sleet, and even a changeover to a period where we could see some just rain. Now, that is going to have very big impacts on the amount of snow we see. We're going to walk you through that on the models. The other story with this, too, is going to be the frigid cold that comes on the backside of it. So I think let's start walking through how this plays out.
And one of the biggest questions, when's this going to start? I've had a lot of those questions today. Of course, it has to come on a weekend. So looking at the storm timing, if you had planned Saturday morning, I'm not expecting much weather trouble early Saturday. It'll be into the afternoon and on into Saturday night. Now, Ryan touched on that chance of freezing rain or rain trying to mix in with this on into your late Saturday afternoon and evening, but it will go back to some heavy snow as we get into Saturday night. In fact, the storm should peak into Saturday night and on into early Sunday morning before that snow finally starts to wrap up as we go into Sunday afternoon. The model over our shoulders here, this is the GFS model, one of the two longer range models we're looking at. So what we're going to do is walk through both models, because here is the tricky part of this storm. We start Saturday morning dry, but as we get into the afternoon when we're expecting the snow to increase here at home, the problem is the storm track. You hear us talk about that a lot. Up or down 50 or 80 miles makes a huge difference on a storm that's several hundred miles wide. And here we are right on the dividing line here at home. In fact, by the time we get into Saturday evening, notice the green, even the pink that's starting to shift its way on into Columbiana, Mahoning, and Lawrence counties. That's the warm air that's going to punch up into the system and try to limit some of the snowfall. If this goes over to all rain Saturday evening into Saturday night, you could pretty much erase 5 or 6 inches out of my snowfall forecast that you're going to see here in just a few minutes. But it does go back to all snow if it takes this scenario of this model on into your Saturday night and early Sunday morning, and then over to blustery snow showers expected. But the intensity looks like it should start decreasing on into Sunday morning, on into Sunday afternoon. So looking at snow tracker for us here as we go into Saturday evening, the potential is there for anywhere from 3 to 5 inches of snow through the afternoon into the evening. Now, keep in mind, this model is showing total snowfall this week. That does include the inch or two that we most likely will experience on into Friday morning out of the first storm system. So you can subtract an inch or two off any of these totals as we go into Saturday night. Now, by Sunday morning, though, some spots approaching a foot of snow, especially those points northward where you have a better chance of seeing all snow on into Saturday evening and Saturday night, and then by Sunday morning. So we don't only look at one model, though, right, Ryan? We are always looking at multiple models. So let's go ahead and talk about the European.
And right now, the European is a little bit different in terms of just how far north it tries to bring that warmer air. Now, as we take a look at how this plays out, it's very similar on the timing in terms of the arrival of snow. You're seeing right around noon here that snow starting to push into western Ohio, and then going into the afternoon that snow starts to develop and you start seeing that deep blue shade showing up here. This deep blue that you're seeing, that is going to be that heavier snow. And notice too, you still see the green and the pink in there. Now the green, this is the rain showers, and then as you start looking where you have this pink line showing up, that is that mix, that wintry mix of some rain, some snow. And notice it's a little bit different from the model that Paul was showing you in that it keeps that rain snow snow line a little bit further to the south. This scenario results in heavier accumulation for us, and this is the tricky part with this storm.
Absolutely.
Because what we're watching for is just where that rain snow line sets up. It's only a matter of about 50 miles in terms of the difference from where it goes, but that 50 miles is key in how much snow can be the difference in dropping the accumulations by as much as 3 to 5, 6 inches if you see that change over to all rain. Now, this model does keep that snow in, though, overnight and lingering into Sunday morning, then starts to taper it off, and snow starts looking a little bit lighter going into the afternoon and evening. Then we start seeing that frigid cold coming in. So this for accumulations you see showing about a lighter accumulation early on, about 3 to 4 inches showing up here on the model, but then really ramping those accumulation numbers up, showing upwards of 8 to as much as a foot of snow. And do keep in mind with what you're seeing here, this is cumulative through the week. So this is factoring in that storm that we're watching on Thursday and the little bit of snow that we could see overnight tonight into early Wednesday morning, but still very high accumulation amount there. And this would be one of those types of snows that is going to really put a halt on things. And I especially think that the northern parts of the viewing area through northern Trumbull, northern Mercer County, that's where you start seeing these higher amounts showing up here. That's where I expect the greatest potential to see the higher end accumulations.
And Ryan, I was looking at, we were talking about that rain mixing in. I was looking at some of the observation sites south of us. Let's say Wheeling, down around New Philly, not very far away. Not a lot of snow expected that close to us. So that just shows how borderline we are here at home. What we're generally looking for now, keep in mind, we're still 4 days out from this happening, and there's just been a lot of talk about this storm, and that's why we're going into a little more detail with this tonight. Looking at total snowfall through the week, through the weekend, generally 7 to 10 inches. Now, if less rain moves in and we see more snow out of this into Saturday evening, closer to 10, possibly even into the upper teens here, and of course the lower side if we get into rain.
That lower side being where we see that changeover. So my expectations just to early on try and give you a little bit of locations tied to these numbers. The best chance at seeing the low end of snow, that would be through southern Columbiana County, from about Salineville over toward Wellsville over toward East Liverpool. The best chance at seeing the higher end of accumulations here, that's northern Trumbull County, from about Mesopotamia over to Kinsman, and then from Greenville and Jamestown over toward Sandy Creek and Sandy Lake and Stoneboro in northern Mercer County.
Yeah, you can almost take a trip almost up, let's say 62 off into the northeast, probably having the best chance of getting into some of that freezing rain or rain if it plays out for the one model scenario as we go into Saturday night. So definitely a lot of impacts with this storm. It'll probably start as a heavy wet snow, wrapping up as a cold, blustery, dry snow with blowing and drifting, because wind is going to be a factor with this storm too. Not just heavy snow. We'll get into that gusty wind, and that wind will also take another impact to the storm that we haven't talked about. The cold temperatures through the day on Sunday, your temperatures will be dropping through the teens into the single digits. In fact, I'm expecting a low here Sunday night as we're looking at close to 0. That puts those wind chills close to 20 below 0 into your Sunday night and early Monday morning. So that's what we're looking at. This is kind of the backside of the storm system into those colder temperatures. So this storm has had fairly good consistency on the modeling. So the confidence is gaining with it as it moves on into the area. So we've been looking at this since last week. We started really getting a good look at this storm.
We started seeing this show up last week and started talking about it as we had some of that snow that last week going into the weekend, and talking about this weekend kind of being the main event here. And as we go through the next couple of days, we still, from the time we've put this together, we have about 13 new runs of the models coming in. Some of the shorter range models are going to start to show this storm system as well. So we have a lot more data coming in, a lot more to dig through. And as we start getting closer, that data with more of it available, we start seeing a little bit more consistency, becomes a little bit easier to start pinpointing just where those accumulation amounts will occur.
Yeah, and our confidence grows, of course, as we get closer to the storm impact time into your Saturday afternoon and Saturday evening. Don't forget, though, we are dealing with a couple of systems before this comes on through, one of which tonight with some freezing drizzle into tomorrow, and then another one coming in Thursday evening into Thursday night, which too could bring a wintry mix then over to slushy snow. So we are going to keep updating these longer, more in-depth looks at this storm for the rest of the week. So you can look for those on through the evening. And of course, as we always do, we'll continue to update you at WKBN.com and keeping an eye on the forecast out on the fly. And also, if you're out this weekend, don't forget about our Storm Team 27 app, maybe radar updates if you're wondering what, even some of the sky cameras. I use those a lot. We use those cameras around the area to kind of get a good view of the roads as we get on into this weekend storm. So thank you, Ryan Halicki. I appreciate the help here this evening. We always work together as we get into these severe situations here in weather, and we're going to keep a close eye on this storm for sure.
Yes, and we'll continue to watch that, of course, as we go through the weekend. If you are seeing any of those images, you're taking some of the photos, you can send those to us by clicking the Report It tab at the top of the website. That's also, make sure you're sending in those snowfall measurements. We want to see how this is playing out in your backyard as well. When you send those measurements, also make sure you tell us what time you took it and the location that you're in. Just a ruler with just snow, it's not quite as helpful as knowing where that ruler with the snow is, so please make sure you include your location. But we want to see those coming in. We're also going to be monitoring the potential for adjustments of events, some delays and cancellations possible late Saturday, and on our apps you can find that information will be posted there as well. So this is certainly a storm that we're going to need to be watching closely.
And we are staying on it. We'll be tracking it on through the end of the week here and on into the weekend. We'll both be in here watching it closely as we get on into the event. So a pretty decent or strong major winter storm trying to approach the area. Again, heavy snow potential is there. We're keeping an eye. We say 13 more model and bigger model runs here, so we'll be watching each one of them closely and updating you as this storm approaches on into the weekend.